So I spent my lunchtime watching a Netflix original movie, The Wrecking Crew. So Dave Bautista as James and Jason Momoa as Johnny. They're half brothers from Hawaii whose father is murdered at the beginning by Yakuza gangsters. Johnny is visited by some of these gangsters who think he's received a package from their father, who he hasn't seen for at least 10 years or so. So Johnny goes back to Hawaii, reconnects with his half brother, whom he actually hates, and they eventually start investigating what has been recorded as an accidental death. A visit from a local gang member sees Johnny given 7 days to leave the island, or else he'll be a victim of some sort of crime, probably murder, I suppose. And so Johnny and James set about investigating their father's mysterious death. It turns out that their father was investigating a proposed casino development by some British billionaire property developer who has an obsession with Japanese culture. It's a mystery because gambling is illegal in Hawaii, and so there's no reason for it to happen. And it turns out it's actually planned to be built on sort of ancestral tribal lands or something, which is currently being occupied by some locals who have set up a sort of rural community, an unofficial, sort of unknown community. And so the film goes through a series of action set pieces where they're shot at. There's all sorts of implausible stunts, which aren't really stunts because, as we know in modern filmmaking, these things happen in green screens and are done in post production. Eventually, there's the big action scene at the end. We find out that who's actually behind the conspiracy, who's it connected to. Oh my god, it's a friend of the family, blah blah blah, and everything tied up a nice little bow, and that's the end of it. So there you go, The Wrecking Crew, another multi-million-dollar Amazon original that you have never heard of. So is it any good? Well, yeah, it's fine, I suppose. Putting together Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa is whatever. Jason Momoa, I believe, is actually Hawaiian, but Dave Bautista is Latino, so I'm guessing they're thinking that Dave Bautista's dark skin that he might be able to pass. Or I think there's some issue, or there's some issue with the family background that he's actually half Latino or something like that. I don't know. It's not a case of a together at last scenario, but they seem to work well. Dave Bautista playing the older half brother, and they're both good at action scenes, as they have plenty of experience doing that in their careers. There's a few references to WWE, insulting people relating to The Rock and John Cena. There's a few cliches where they have a big emotional punch up in pouring rain because that's what people do. There's a scene with David Bautista's hidden arsenal on the way to the climactic assault on the mansion scene, because there's no reason for us to believe that he has an arsenal of weapons other than the fact that he's in the Dave Bautista's in the military. It's a series of cliches. It's a series of unimaginative dialogue, a series of unimaginative stunt scenes, which, as I said, they're not really stunt scenes. The whole thing looks like that it was done entirely on green screen, which can't be true. Must have been something done location, but maybe it's the way films are made these days, or maybe my eyes are attuned to and expecting green screen, but it just felt like it was all green screen, even though it's in a normal setting. There's a scene with Jason Momoa's girlfriend, who at the start she leaves him, and then she comes back into the picture, and then it suddenly turns out that she's a bit of a tech expert and a financial whiz for no reason whatsoever. It just means that it's an excuse for getting quick answers to the solution that they need to find out everything in the conspiracy. It's all a bit cliched, really. And then, of course, there's a fight scene at the end, which is the kind of linear fight scene that we saw in films like Oldboy, which is their way of having one person fighting multiple attackers while only being able to do it one at a time, keep them in a tight corridor, go from right to left, and that kind of explains it away. There's even one moment at the end where Dave Bautista's in a shootout with the main Yakuza guy, and he shouts at Bautista, "Did you miss me?" But they only ever met once before, so it's not like they have a big sort of connection. It's not like the henchman in Rush Hour with Chris Rock, where there is actual significant interaction leading up to their final fight scene, which does have some impact. It feels like there's one or two scenes missing to explain that one. There is one big disappointment of this, and it's kind of weird actually. It's actually the soundtrack. You see, this film is set in Hawaii, and they make a big point of Hawaii. That Jason Momoa's Hawaiian, the father's Hawaiian, so Dave Bautista's half Hawaiian. They go to this commune on the land that the casino is going to be built on, and they talk about Hawaiian culture. So this film is very specifically set in Hawaii, and yet the soundtrack includes no music that could really be described as recognizably Hawaiian. There's some hip hop, there's some reggae, which all sounds very cool and actually is kind of in place for a film like this. But this is a film set in Hawaii that's supposed to specifically feature Hawaiian culture and Hawaiian people. And there's no Hawaiian music. And I know you might be thinking, oh, talking about that stereotypical Hawaiian music with that type of zinger guitar thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sort of modern Hawaiian music, which has certain cultural elements. I wouldn't know what Hawaiian music is, but there was nothing in the soundtrack that sounded vastly different to what I'm used to. So there really is, unless they're using some music by some Hawaiian band or Hawaiian composer, I don't know. But there's nothing that really stood out in the soundtrack as being Hawaiian. And that sounded like a big missed opportunity. So the Wrecking Crew, like many of these Amazon originals and even with some Netflix originals, it just felt like a very expensive TV movie, like the kind you see on Hallmark Channel in America or in the UK on Channel 5 during the daytime. Sometimes on those Christmas channels that come up every year. It just doesn't feel like a big budget film, even though it's got the big set pieces. I don't know if that's a technical thing, that these films are actually specifically made for TV, and so the equipment they use, even though it has that 16:7 aspect ratio, the lens technology, the recording technology, it actually records for TV rather than film. I'd be interested to know if there's a difference to those two things, but it does still feel like a very expensive TV movie, which is fine. It's a by the numbers action movie. It's 2 hours of just watching some fighting and some driving and some silly stunts, a whole story that doesn't require much thought. And as I say, I watched it in my lunchtime. It was fine. So yeah, watch The Wrecking Crew if you like a dumb action film that isn't going to be too stupid that it offends you. But don't expect anything memorable, any characters you really care about, a plot you're really interested in, or a film you're going to particularly be bothered to see again.